Pound Gap, Virginia is truly a dark and bloody ground. From the pioneer days with the raids of Chief Benji through the Civil War, the murders perpetrated by Deputy Sheriff Clell Adams, the Pound Gap Massacre, and now the murder of Mr. Leonard Woods. While we will never know all of the people involved in the murder that had taken place sometime between November 29th and 30th of 1927, we do know that this one event would forever change Virginia law. We try our best to cover history as accurately as possible, especially when Appalachian attitudes and laws are changed. We also let our viewers and readers know when there is strong language involved in the case. The case of Leonard Woods is just such a story. While we will not use the language used to describe Mr. Woods and the two women involved, nor the common words used for what happened to Mr. Woods, we will leave up the newspaper articles for historical accuracy. We have had this case on our desk for quite some time and wanted to cover it with as much sensitivity as we could. This story is not meant to cut open no wounds, but if we do not learn from our history, then we are doomed to repeat it. As we say here, history is often messy, but it is history nonetheless. Because of what happened to Mr. Woods, the state of Virginia would be the first state in the Union to outlaw mob justice by rope. The event would happen in 1927, and it was shortly after it, in 1928, that the laws were changed. This went on long before the happenings of the 1950s and 60s with the Civil Rights Movement. While we are sure that illegal mob justice did take place after these laws were changed, the knee-jerk reaction to take matters into the hands of a mob became less prevalent. As a reminder, these events took place almost 100 years ago. They in no way reflect the current attitudes of the people of Kentucky or Virginia today, nor should it be used to place blame on persons living or dead. Come along with us as we travel back in time to November 1927 to the top of Pound Gap, Virginia. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine as it is preparing to depart to the Kentucky-Virginia State Line. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine for our flight back in time, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger vehicle to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. The people involved. There are no existing public pictures of the people involved in the case, so we have substituted pictures of the area as it existed both back then and now. Again, we must add here, we do not usually like to take on subjects concerning race, politics, or religion unless they are central to the story. Sadly, in this case, race played a huge role in what happened. The people involved in the case were Leonard Woods, a black coal miner who was from Jenkins, Kentucky, two black unnamed women, Hershell Deaton, 35, who was a white mine foreman of the Elkhorn Coal Corporation at Fleming, Kentucky. Deaton lived on Toms Creek in Coburn, Virginia. Mrs. Fess Whitaker, the First Lady Jailer, who was the widow of Corporal Fess Whitaker, who was the first man who died in a car accident in Letcher County. Corporal Whitaker was the famous author, but also infamous because he became known as the jailed jailer when he was placed in his own jail cell for contempt of court. There were also 6 additional unnamed prisoners and a mob of over 150 white people. The death of Hershell Deaton. The shooting death of Hershell Deaton had taken place sometime on November 27, 1927. According to the Evening Star and the Bismarck Tribune, both dated November 30th, 1927, we have the following reason behind the death. Quote, Deaton was shot to death when he refused to allow Woods and the 2 women to ride in his automobile Sunday night, authorities charged, unquote. It is unknown if Deaton and Woods knew each other outside of what happened. It could be that Deaton was Woods' supervisor if they worked on the same shift for the same mine. After all, there were many mines in Letcher County at that time. Or it could be that Woods was simply asking for a ride from a fellow miner. We are simply not given any information as to how the 2 people crossed paths that day. We also have never heard from the two women who were with Woods on that fateful day. We have to ask, what transpired between the two men that made Woods feel that he had to shoot Deaton? Were the women involved, or were they simply witnesses to what transpired? Were they too frightened to speak publicly about the events that day? We will never know. The arrest and jailbreak. It did not take very long for Deaton's body to be discovered and the person accused of the crime to be arrested. According to the Bismarck Tribune, dated November 30th, 1927. Quote, was arrested shortly after Deaton's body was found Sunday. Growing excitement caused the officers to take their prisoner to Whitesburg yesterday for safekeeping. Late last night, an unmasked throng of men approached the jail, sawed through its iron bars, placed a chain around Wood's neck, and led him away. Jailer is a woman. Mrs. Fess Whitaker, the jailer, said that she was powerless to resist. Two women who were arrested with Woods in connection with the slaying were unmolested, unquote. Adding to this report came from the Brownsville Herald, dated November 30th, 1927. They gave the same report with the addition of, quote, late last night, a motorcade of more than 150 cars arrived in Whitesburg, unquote. While Woods was the main target for the jailbreak, he would not be the only prisoner to leave Whitesburg, Kentucky jail that night. According to the Cordell Dispatch dated November 30th, 1927. Quote, in the confusion, 6 prisoners escaped from the Letcher County Jail presided over by Mrs. Fess Whitaker as jailer. She was appointed recently to succeed her husband, who was killed in an automobile accident, unquote. Corporal and Mrs. Fess Whitaker had several distinctions in Letcher County. One of the leading go-to books for the history of Letcher County, Kentucky, was written by Corporal Whitaker. The book has very strong language, but a lot of his writings tell what really happened when the coal mines came to Letcher County. Corporal Whitaker was also the first man to die in Letcher County by a car accident. He was also thrown into his own jail for contempt of court by a county judge. Mrs. Fess Whitaker has the distinction of being the first woman jailer in Letcher County. She received her appointment after the death of her husband, but we do have to ask this question. If you saw somewhere around 150 cars pull up to take a prisoner captive, what would you do against that many people? We are not saying that she was correct in her actions, only that we understand it. The death of Leonard Woods. The ceremony opening up the Kentucky-Virginia Highway would be important to what happened next. According to the Richmond Planet, dated December 10th, 1927, we have the following report. Quote, Whitesburg, Kentucky, November 30th. On the spot where a few days ago Kentuckians and Virginians joined hands in celebrating the opening of the Kentucky-Virginia Highway. Unquote. Sadly, the spot of celebration and the joining of hands of two great states now bore the shame of a mob execution. According to the Richmond Planet, the mob consisted of people from both Kentucky and Virginia. I guess the easiest way to put what happened to Woods that night is described by the Richmond Planet. It simply states the following. Quote, then after hanging Leonard Woods, the man accused of the murder, the mob fired many shots into the body, cut it down, and using the stands built for the highway dedication as a pyre, burned the body. The mob dispersed by the light of the burning stands at Pound Gap on the state line. Unquote. There are other reports that are a bit more graphic, but they all basically state the same thing happening to Woods that night. Find the guilty. The state of Virginia was not going to sit still and do nothing. After all, the place that Woods was murdered was on Virginia ground. An investigation was immediately opened up. According to the Cordell Dispatch dated November 30th, 1927, quote, County Attorney Harry L. Moore immediately began an investigation into the rope execution of Woods, alleged slayer of Hershell Deaton, 35 years old, of Coburn, on Toms Creek, Virginia, who was the foreman at a Fleming, Kentucky mine, unquote. Unfortunately, this investigation went about nowhere. There were no people named in the murder of Woods, no suspects, no arrests, no indictments, no trial. This fact did not sit well with the governor of the state of Virginia. Governor Byrd gets involved. Governor Byrd was not going to stand by and do nothing. He waited patiently for there to be arrests made in connection with this horrible crime. When none were forthcoming, he fired off a telegram to the Kentucky governor, W.J. Fields. According to the Cordell Dispatch on December 2nd, 1927, we have the following. Quote, Frankfort, Kentucky, December 2nd, Associated Press. Governor W.J. Fields today received a telegram from Governor Harry F. Byrd of Virginia, in which he offered his cooperation in bringing to justice the person who stormed the Whitesburg, Kentucky jail Friday night, taking from it Leonard Woods, who was later executed by rope at Jenkins, Kentucky. Woods was said to have killed a white man, unquote. This was only the first step that Governor Byrd would take to stop all mob justice in his state. He would be encouraged by the people of his state. Newspapers get involved. While this was only the first cry for justice for Woods, it would not be the last. According to the Richmond Planet, we had the following open letter to Governor Byrd. Quote, Open letter to Governor Byrd. His Excellency, Governor Harry Flood Byrd, State of Virginia. Most Honorable Sir, within a single week, two most regrettable happenings have registered black marks against Virginia, the Commonwealth, over which you have the honor to preside. One of these had been condemned by an intelligent public opinion. So dastardly was the, quote, Virginia, Kentucky execution by rope bee, unquote, that upon the day there following, Your Excellency expressed disapproval in no uncertain language and offered to aid Kentucky in bringing those who perpetrated the group murder to justice. Not only Virginians, but thoughtful citizens all over our great republic have your courageous attitude as bespeaking a new day for the South, when organized murder by mobs will be reprehensible and subject to the same punitive measures as individual murder, unquote. Several newspaper editors would push for laws to change. Two of the more prominent editors were Lewis Joffe of the Norfolk newspaper and Norton, Virginia editor Bruce Crawford. Calls to fire Whitaker. Even though Mrs. Fess Whitaker was unable to stop the mob, she was now facing consequences of her own concerning the events that had taken place. According to the Bismarck Tribune, dated November 30th, 1927, quote, The governor of Kentucky, heretofore, has pursued a policy of summary dismissal from office of any jailer or state authority who has permitted the removal of his charges by unauthorized persons without physical resistance. Mrs. Whitaker is the first woman officer to have become involved in such an affair in the state, unquote. We are not for sure if Miss Whitaker lost her job due to what happened. However, there were calls for her dismissal. Laws and attitudes change. Governor Byrd would work with the Virginia State Assembly early in the year 1928. Together, they would pass a law defining mob execution by rope as a state crime. Virginia would be the first state in the Union to pass such a law. In 2020, the Virginia Department of Transportation put up a road sign describing the events that happened at Pound Gap. This sign serves as both a remembrance of history and serves as a warning that mob justice won't be tolerated in the state of Virginia anymore. Thank you. Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video on Leonard Woods, the man who would change Virginia law. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification buttons. Please be sure to double check that you are subscribed, as some of our viewers are finding that they are no longer subscribed to our channel. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.